Welcome to the Kratom Sobriety Podcast. This is Jazz. Welcome, everybody. And I am here with Lauren. How are you doing, Lauren?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's finally getting like springtime around here. What about you?
Yeah, it was snowing 2 days ago, but now it's warm again. So just learning what to wear when we're outside is a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. And you're a runner too, so it's very
Yeah.
important that we either bundle up appropriately or layer down. So you wanted to talk about a little bit about community and recovery, but we wanted to start out because Lauren and I started having this conversation about going into shops and seeing kratom in the wild and different forms of it. And so we were just like having this conversation and thought, oh, maybe we should press record because it's interesting what we observe in different places. And I know several episodes back, I talked about how at in the suburban area where I live in the Northeast, I had never seen kratom in the wild because I'd only used the powder and the capsules and I only got them online. So I didn't go into vape shops. I never got into the feel free or the extracts or thankfully 7-OH. But a few months ago, I walked into this deli where I normally order homemade soups, and it's connected to a gas station, and new management had taken over, and I saw Feel Free on the shelves for the very first time. And I continued to frequent this deli, not to buy that stuff, but to buy the soup that I usually buy. And their display has just grown in size, and now they have these boxes of 7-OH, but there's also 8-OH, which seems very weird, but it's a whole display. So there's this huge display of blue bottles, and it's only grown in size over the last few months. And then today I stopped by to get a chicken tortilla soup, and lo and behold, the outer wall of the store had a huge poster saying, I forget what it said exactly, but it was like, get chill. When I talked to the manager before, he said the distributor had given him free samples and they sold so well that he was going to keep selling them. And one of the cashiers heeded my warnings about especially the 7-OH and whatever that 8-OH stuff is.
They kept coming out with stronger and stronger ones, which I guess was for people that were so addicted to it that I started needing it like that. So it's just crazy. It's so crazy to see that new stuff like that. When I went into the vape store that I used to go in, and the guy was telling me how people came in where I'm at, they banned 7-OH as a Schedule 1, but people would come in and they were just looking for anything to take because the withdrawal was so bad, and they bought this other new stuff that they have and were taking it by the box, like right there in the store. And it's just so consuming.
So what was that stuff? That alternative
I
stuff?
don't know. I looked at the ingredients and it just said binding alkaloids.
Oh, geez.
That's what the active ingredients was. Now, I can say on the back it said highly addictive, can cause serious health risks. There was that on it, but it was tiny print on the back.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure if you look at the box, it said buzzers. So if you look at the box, I think that they know they're going to get something from it. I don't think they care if it's people.
Yeah.
I didn't care.
No, I was listening it made me think because I was listening to another podcast recently about just the more information details about kratom and about kratom abuse and dependency and all the policies that are being enacted. There, like you mentioned, a ban, how it's banned in Ohio. And yeah, that somebody, I think either the host or the interviewer or the interviewee said that maybe, I think it was the host actually, but he said, oh, there's a fear that if 7-OH is banned, then all the people who are so addicted to 7-OH that they go through withdrawal, like in a few hours of missing a dose, like maybe they'll turn to more dangerous drugs like heroin, fentanyl. And I guess I don't know how much more dangerous that would be because doesn't the 7-OH also cause respiratory depression?
It can, yeah. And not only that, but there's a lot of things now that they'll say that it can cause psychosis, hallucinations, and that happened with me. I don't know how much dangerous. Yeah, fentanyl is absolutely the leading killer right now in opiates. So I understand that. But the withdrawal is identical for me and my physical body, identical to when I came off of Oxy. I wouldn't doubt it. if people, because they just took it off the shelves with no help. You know, it was,
Right,
here you
right.
go, go through all this withdrawal. And so that's why our communities are so important that we were
Yeah,
talking
because we only have
about.
each other, really.
Yeah, and when it's gone, I'm sure that people, like, I was so relieved because it was gone after I was already clean off of it,
Mm.
but people that just walked in that were so addicted, I don't know what I would have done if I just saw it gone. So if there's not communities in place that understand this, I don't know what anybody will do. So it's
Mm.
important for us to get that out and to make sure people know that we need each other. Like you said, we only have
Yeah.
each other.
Mm. Yeah, because it's like they're banning things without putting in safety nets so people don't know where to turn. So they have to turn to
Right.
each other, their communities.
Yeah, and I just hope, like with my AA meetings, I have informed people. At first, I was scared to even say anything about it. I didn't want to promote it, but people started coming in and talking about it. There's 3 guys that come to my meeting that were in actually a detox that came after that and off 7-OH, and so we started talking about it because if people come in, I don't know about you, but when I told my doctor about it, he didn't know. That was
Mhm.
the most defeating feeling when my doctor didn't know. So at least if they reach out to support groups, we will know what they're talking about and can relate to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I never told any doctors about use, but I don't think I was on powder and I don't think I used too much medical care during that time, but I do think that I remember reading about it. Stories were coming out just about the powder and the capsules and people starting to realize that it was addictive after it was like advertised on podcasts. And I would just mention something about it to a friend or someone. Oh, so have you ever heard of kratom or kratom? And they're like, no, what's that? No, but
Mhm.
even just a few years ago, I don't
No,
think people really. Yeah. So when you're sometimes like the patients have to educate the doctor
I
with the
know
lived
that I did, and
experience.
I remember telling my nurse, I said, "Please look this up.
Mm,
Write it down, look it up." I've told several people, police officers, everything, because if the community doesn't know, then we don't know how to help. And
right.
so if you come and you pull somebody over and you're a police officer and they're not in their right mind, how are you supposed to know that these things that are in, because in my car, I had little boxes in my car. How would they know what
Mm,
that was?
mhm.
So I think just the word, just getting it out, sharing it with people. And I know that you used online forums and I used
Yeah.
in-person forums, but they're
Mhm.
both ways to connect with people.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how there's not one linear path to finding your own version of recovery. Like of course, like I stayed in community with people in person, but then in order to come off of the kratom, what ended up working for me was a taper method, but I could not stick to anything until I finally, like after months and months of doom scrolling all the Reddit forums on kratom or quitting kratom, I finally ended up reaching out to somebody or a couple people actually who said, "Oh, if anybody needs support, I'm willing to offer my experience." And I worked with them to develop a taper plan and figure out how
Right.
many weeks it would take, or actually in my case, months to come off the powder because I was at a very high level or a very high
Mhm.
amount. So I was reducing by like point 0.3 grams every couple days. And I did a very slow taper, but I had support. But I would check in with these people every day and we'd say how we were doing. And it was really helpful if I had not been accountable to them, had those accountability partners, then I might not have stuck to it.
Yeah, yeah, and just the ideas. I think this podcast is great because I listened to you and your means of tapering off, and
Mhm.
a lot of people have shared different ideas of how to get off of it. Some people have gone to Suboxone and they've gone that route because of the 7-OH strength or the powder with the tapering. I think it's just we need each other. Even the support that I get within my groups and with my family, it's some people don't understand it, but they can tell me what they did. I tapered off alcohol. I went to the doctor, those kind of things. Or if you go to NA, HA, Celebrate Recovery, there's all these different avenues, but the connection, the human connection, is
Exactly.
just is priceless sometimes when you tell somebody how bad it is and they look at you and say, but there's a way out. what would we do if somebody didn't tell us there's a way out?
Yeah. We need to see success stories like people who have walked the path before us. It's like trudging through
Mhm.
snow. Like it's a lot easier if somebody's cleared out a path from their own struggles. You can learn from their struggles.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great analogy because that's definitely trudging through the snow
Yeah.
is definitely what it feels like, especially the first month or so. Oh my gosh. And I
Mhm.
think that's why this podcast has been such a great tool for me
Yeah.
because I don't have to connect with people to hear what they're going through and what they did and how and I just took little pieces of what people said. And my rock bottom was really drastic and dramatic, but it didn't have to get that way. When you can listen to these tools and hopefully prevent yourself from getting to that point where you're losing everything in your life.
Yeah, and I like how this podcast, Charlie, will invite people who have relapsed and then come back from relapse because it shows other people who might be listening if they have a slip and they start taking it again or they think that they can start to moderate and they start to spiral again. Like it's not a moral failing or it's not like you're defective in some way or you're alone. Like it happens to so many people. It's like just one of those very sneaky substances.
It really is. Yeah, because like you said, it's at a deli. You're buying
Yeah.
soup there. It's just
Yeah,
the
exactly. It's not if I had not ever encountered kratom and started taking it or known what the blue bottles were, I would look at that in the window and say, "Oh, that seems really cool. What is it?" And it's not clear
Mhm.
what's inside of it anyway.
Yeah, and those little extracts, what I took was right next to when I started, it was right next to 5-Hour Energies. Just picked
Yeah,
it up. We wouldn't know what it is, and a lot of people don't. So again, getting it out and telling people because it destroys even if it takes 1 year of your life, it's too much.
I agree.
Just
Yes.
letting people know and being open, and if they didn't have that forum that you got on, you wouldn't have known how to get
Mhm.
off. So one person starting, if Charlie wouldn't have started this podcast, there's a lot of people that I think have learned a lot about how to stop and that there is life after addiction through the stories shared on here.
Yeah, absolutely. This podcast helped me too because I was doing my taper when I started listening and it's interesting. It's cool how I kept learning things along the way that helped me continue the path of recovery, even like after the fact.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like we said, like the forums and then the in-person thing and just even like we had some people send in emails and reach out to us and we can share a little bit of message of hope. If anybody's listening and they don't get into an AA thing or they don't really feel like getting online, they can church or they're like you said, it's not linear. So there's all kinds of different ways. But at the core of it, it's just reaching out for help.
Yeah, exactly. So, on that note, it was really great to talk to you. And anybody who's listening who wants to reach out for help or get in community with us in conversation, please do. We'd be happy to welcome you to the Creative Sobriety community and chat with you more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Jazz.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too.
Hello, this is Charlie, and this is the Kratom Sobriety podcast. And today I'm with Aaron, who's joining us for an interview to talk about his quitting Kratom story. Welcome, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Nice to speak with you.
Thank you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Aaron. I've been recovering for a little over a year now from kratom use, and I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
What do you do for fun these days?
I'm battling having too many hobbies lately. I do jujitsu quite a bit, go to the regular gym. I like to read a lot. I've been traveling quite a bit, all kinds of stuff. I'm staying pretty busy.
All right. And yeah, your sobriety date from Kratom was around Valentines last year. What did that look like? What made you decide to quit?
I guess the reasons that I had started using kratom were no longer relevant. Like I had disproven them to myself through using long enough. And what it started as initially, which was like powder use, had turned into almost entirely extract use. So it's like I couldn't fool myself anymore that I was taking like a supplement. It's okay. I'm popping pills now. I'm drinking weird mixed drinks. So it just became very clear that it was an addiction. It was disrupting my life and I had to stop.
All right. And yeah, take us back. When did you get introduced to Kratom?
So I had a roommate who took a trip to New York City to see the Dead Milkmen. And he struggled with different things throughout the years, alcohol and other substances. So he was trying really hard to stay sober, and he went into one of the bodegas there because I think it's been said on the show before, but kratom's not legal in Milwaukee, so we had very limited exposure to it here. But he found it in one of the bodegas and tried it and just fell in love with it. And he came home, and next thing I knew, he had kilogram packages of it around the house, and he's constantly walking around with this shaker bottle. And I had heard of kratom in the past, like when I lived in Arizona, like I saw it a time or two, but I never really thought of anything of it. Like I think I tried it once and it didn't really do anything. So I figured it was like, how people say, oh, take ashwagandha, it'll calm you down. And then you take ashwagandha and it's like, sure. So he starts bringing this kratom around and I'm like, dude, why are you doing that? And it's like a placebo. And he's like, no, it's not. And I was like, yeah, it is. You want to bet? And he's, yep, I'll fill you up a big shaker bottle right now. And I was like, okay. And I tried it and probably 20 minutes later it kicked in. And I was like, oh my God, I remember this feeling.
So do you have a history with other substances?
Oh yeah, a long history for better or worse. But I guess I started smoking marijuana pretty young in high school, got into the like ADHD drugs and things like that just because they're available at the time. And then pretty quickly after high school, started using heroin, like IV heroin and crack cocaine, which I'm not proud of. It happened. And then I ended up going to rehab for that pretty quickly. So I went to rehab when I was 18, went to a 28-day program in Wisconsin, and then did an aftercare program for what ended up being like 9 months out in Arizona. Stayed in Arizona for a little while after that, was completely sober for about 2 years, and then started drinking after that, which has been fine for the most part. But yeah, I don't know. I found kratom somewhere along that timeline years later and just really fell in love with it.
And have you been successful in staying off the harder stuff, the heroin and the crack and things like that since your rehab experience?
Yep. Yeah. I wouldn't use that as an endorsement to anybody who might be considering my story as a possibility for themselves. I am the only person I know who's successfully been able to dip their toes in and not get fully pulled back into hardcore addiction. But yeah, fortunately, it's been a little over 10 years. I haven't touched any of that stuff.
What was your motivation when your friend had brought it from New York?
I guess my motivation in that moment was to prove him wrong, to be like, oh, yeah, this is junk. And I guess I was naive in that moment and too, in like the marketing of the whole thing and thinking like, oh, it's just a supplement. We all heard the same garbage when this stuff first became popular, that there's no withdrawals, blah, blah, blah. So in that moment, I think I was just being naive. But my history with substance addiction, I feel, has always been not necessarily to chase oblivion, but to try to find some sort of like baseline. Because to be totally candid, say about a month ago, I was diagnosed with autism and I'm 29 now. I feel like substance use my whole life has been like trying to find the right dose of what to feel normal. And once I realized what kratom was, I wasn't naive to the effects of opiates. As soon as I tried it, I knew what I was doing. But I was like, okay, this is like a lesser form of heroin, which was really effective for feeling normal, but ultimately destroyed my life. Maybe I can find the right dose of this stuff and toe that line of being functionally addicted to something. But that sounds too good to be true because it is. It just wasn't possible.
What year was that when you started?
Started kratom in 2022.
So not too long ago, about 4 years ago. And how did your kratom use start off after you experimented and you gave it a try? What did your use look like?
I guess early on, I tried to tell myself, like, okay, this can just be my marijuana because I don't smoke weed or anything, but a lot of people around me do. And I'm like, this is something I can do socially. This is something I can do casually every 2 weeks, whatever. It'll be fine. So that's how it started out. Yeah, I started on the powder, the particular brand of powder kratom that we have available in Illinois. It comes with this little scoop inside. I'd estimate it's about probably a tablespoon. So doing about 3 tablespoons to start. And quickly that went up to about 12. And after 12, I wouldn't get high anymore from the powder. I would feel sick, and that never really went away, fortunately. I'd say my upper limit was, I don't know what that would be in grams, but like 12 scoops of the powder.
How long did your use look like that, and did it eventually escalate?
So it looked like that for quite a while. I always joke that I'm like the world's worst drug addict because I was sick more often than I was on the stuff, it felt, because I was aware that what I was doing wasn't good and I didn't want to fully commit to the addiction. So usually what that looked like initially was using for 2, 3 weeks at a time, then being sick and coming off for 2 weeks, and then getting the desire and making the drive and getting more and restarting the whole thing. And I did that over and over again. And on one instance, I did buy some of the black concentrate shots. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried those sort of early on, not knowing about what the concentrates were or whatever. I just didn't want to have to eat this disgusting powder. And that was the same thing, fortunately. Like it made me really sick and feel horrible. So I just didn't touch it again for a long time. But at first, we'll call it quitting. It wasn't really quitting, but it was easy. It was like, okay, I feel bad. I'm going to stop. All right, we're done. And then a few weeks would go by and I'd go back on it. But that got harder and harder to do eventually. And I became fully aware through doing research online and my own experience that like I'm fooling myself by like coming off. So I'm like, all right, I'll just stay on. That started to look like months at a time of continuous use, typically around the same dose. But eventually, after one quit, I found out about the blue concentrate shots, which I've personally never seen in Illinois. But I made a trip to LA and I saw them there. I was like, I'd been sober for a few weeks and I saw them and I was like, man, I've been hearing a lot about those. Like, how bad they are. I better try out and find out how bad they are for myself. And they certainly were. And then I got back home, and the closest thing we have is like these kratom sodas. They're really tasty, actually. So I was doing those, and toward the end, I was taking like the 7-OH pills, and yeah, that's when it was clear it was a problem.
So yeah, you did that whole escalator from the whole continuum of all the products. Being in Wisconsin, I guess they don't allow you to get it shipped there, so you have
Right.
to drive across state lines.
Yeah, allegedly. Yeah, you do. Milwaukee's fairly close to Illinois. Marijuana's illegal here too, but everybody who smokes they put head shops or dispensaries right on the border. So plenty of people make the drive for that reason. And I guess this was my equivalent of that, unfortunately.
So how did things beyond the gastro distress that you had, what were some of the problems that you started to experience?
So with my last relapse, when I started like going hard with the powder again and starting to get into the concentrates, everybody in my life knew immediately that something was not right. Like I went to work and I sat directly next to my boss at the time and he turns and looks at me. You look like shit. And I was like, oh, dang, this could be bad. And a few people said something to me. They're like, you just don't look right because my skin was really pale. My eyes were super sunken in. Eventually, I don't know what it is about opiates. I'm sure there's some science behind it. I know there's some science behind it, but you really do look sick once you start going in with the kratom. Like you might think you're fooling everyone around you, but there's definitely a look to it. So that was the main thing, was just like looking shitty. But you know how it is eventually you're like fading in and out of consciousness, and it almost feels like a Xanax withdrawal when you go a few hours without it. So just, yeah, some symptoms in that regard too.
Okay. And you talked about trying to quit multiple times. Can you just tell us a little bit about your failed quits?
Yep. Usually what I would do soon after taking the kratom is I would just throw it all away because I would be high and then I would be guilty. You could say there was weekly quit attempts there, but I'd be right driving across the border the next day to get more. Look like that. And then usually for me, Kratom was fun for about a month stretch at a time. I would hit that tail end where it's okay, I have to escalate my dose to the point where I'm feeling sick from taking this stuff. So I would rather deal with the sickness of coming off and giving this another try than the sickness of increasing the dose. But yeah, it was just that over and over again. And the last time, what really made it stick was just the fact that it had escalated to taking pills and stuff. And I just had a feeling inside of myself like, okay, this can't go any further. Like this has gotten too extreme. And for whatever reason, it stuck. When I bought my last dose, the old man at the counter did the sign of the cross over me. So who knows? Maybe that was it. But yeah, I don't something about this last time. I don't know. It's felt different.
Did you start to have any financial issues with the amount you were using?
Fortunately, nothing to the extent that I did when I was using harder drugs.
Mhm.
But yeah, I didn't have any spending money, that was for sure. Like, I didn't have any extra income to go and do fun things. Like, I was spending all of my money on gas to drive to get more and buying the stupid stuff. Yeah, like, fortunately, I didn't pawn my car or anything like that. But yeah, it was a little bit burdensome.
How did it affect some of your hobbies and some of your relationships in your life?
Yeah, so that was another huge motivator to quit. Like I started using, it was actually like a really good solution when I started using because I had just started my first professional job out of college and being undiagnosed. Like I didn't know why I was having so much trouble fitting in the workplace. So Kratom solved that really well at first, but all that went away. Kratom gave me endurance in the gym at first, but that very quickly went away. And yeah, like I stopped going to the gym almost entirely. I got down to, I think, like 170 pounds. Right now, I'm like 195. Anything that requires any degree of like problem solving or focus, I really couldn't do. So there's a lot of potential for impact in my career there that I started to see, especially as I got more like integrated into the company and got a little bit more established. It's like I'm having people rely on me for things now. Like I'm a part of this organization, so I can't be showing up like sick for 2 week stretches at a time. And that's what was happening. Yeah, it impacted almost every area of my life.
And I'm sure being off the kratom for a year, that's what allowed you to get stable and get a diagnosis of maybe that was one of the reasons why you were self-medicating. How did your diagnosis with autism come about?
Yeah, pretty much through running out of things to try to be normal. Every time I would try a new drug or try changing my personality in this way, it's like, all right, this is it. I'm going to be normal after this. Things are just going to work out for me. And that would never happen. And having a drug to hide behind delays that whole process. So I was able to seemingly be normal. Like I was probably still acting strange, but I was high, so I didn't care. But being sober, this is a point I like to make too to people who are early in recovery, but your life doesn't suddenly become awesome and better and all your problems go away, but you're suddenly equipped or more equipped to actually solve them. So I didn't have something to hide behind anymore. It was clear that there was a problem that was greater than something that could be fixed through my effort. And I probably would have never realized that or would have realized it much later had I not gotten sober.
Okay. And how did you manage to quit last February?
I just did it cold turkey. I tried tapers in the past and had lost all self trust in my ability to do that. I didn't get to the point where I bought like a kitchen timer lock safe or anything like that. But so yeah, tomorrow I'll take 6 and today I'll take 10. And it's if I take 15 today, then I'll just take 1 tomorrow and that'll be fine. And it's not I'm sick tomorrow, so that's not gonna happen. So I was like, all right, I can't do that obviously. So I just threw away whatever I had left and sat out the sickness really.
And did you have any withdrawals?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially from the extracts, the withdrawals were definitely more significant than it was when I had first started using it. It was just powder. But I would say, all right, so everything I read online about it is like acute withdrawal period lasts 3 to 5 days. No, it doesn't. I was sick for probably 10 to 14 before I started to feel normal again. And I'm just a skeptic in general. I guess that's what got me in the kratom situation in the first place. But I never really believed in pause, like post-acute withdrawals, because I hadn't experienced them up to that point. But I actually did with kratom, where I just felt really depressed for probably a month after. And what they say about it being like a withdrawal from a benzo, an SSRI, and an opiate is true. Compared to heroin withdrawal, the physical side effects really aren't much. Like you kind of get that. It feels like someone's squeezing your stomach. You get a little bit of that, and restless legs and things like that. But you're not like dry heaving to the point where you're tear your stomach like some people do with heroin. But the mental side, like with heroin, after probably about a week, the real intense mental stuff and emotional pain goes away. But with kratom, that lasted for so long.
Did anything while you were withdrawing help?
See, I didn't try very much. I just sat it out, but I guess I'm prescribed trazodone for sleep. It's a non-narcotic, so that's something people could consider if they're having quite a bit of trouble sleeping to the point where it's affecting their health. But that helped me get to sleep for sure. Otherwise, just exercising as I was able to, like getting some cardio in, trying to sweat it out, just little steps at a time. But really, the biggest thing is just having a plan on how you're going to deal with the mental stuff, because you're not going to be yourself for a little while and you might make some bad decisions during that time. So it's probably good to have a plan with the mental stuff and let someone you're close to who's going to be supportive about it know that you're about to go through this and you're probably not going to be yourself for a little while, and just have somebody who you can talk to is probably the most important thing. Don't go through it alone. Tried to quit like 100 times and people are sick of hearing about it. Tell someone anyway, because it's not worth going through alone.
Did you have a plan ahead of time, or was that something you learned as you went?
That is something that I learned in hindsight for sure. I was newer in my relationship, so I didn't tell my girlfriend about it. I told her about it like after the fact. Thankfully, she was really understanding and kind about it. But yeah, that wasn't something that I did.
Was it helpful that you had to drive a little bit and that wasn't on the corner to go by? Did that help with your quit?
Yeah, so I could step up on my soapbox here and express how I feel about the legality of kratom, but having something not be readily available to you helps massively with quitting. There's a lot of different schools of thought around kratom legality, and I guess I'll just touch on it. But I don't think there's an argument that when something is available, it's far more likely to be problematic. And then the argument that it can be used for opiate withdrawal and this and that and the other, it's like, certainly, then it should be controlled by a doctor who's going to oversee that, or a clinic or a rehab or some means where it's available to people who don't have money to see a doctor, sure. But I don't think the solution to that, I think it's a cope, as they say, for people who really like getting high, to say, no, it's fine that it's in every gas station in all of these states. People need to make their own choices. Sure, if it wasn't mandatory for your boss to give you a weekend, would he? If something is legal and it's available, people are going to tend to get into it. And when it's an addictive substance, they're going to tend to get in trouble with it. So I would say personally for me, the fact that it's not legal here and that there was like a process I had to go through to get it helped massively.
Yeah, I'm torn, but I lean towards that there needs to be a more restrictive environment for the way it's sold. If it's definitely 708 for sure, it has to have some guardrails in them, but there's not an easy answer. The use of kratom is just skyrocketing just by the news stories, and it's becoming more of a lightning rod more than ever this year, partly because of 708.
I heard in Arizona they might roll back the legality of it. Like there's a bill right now. I know somebody who works at a kava shop there, kratom shop, and they had something about like calling their senator to ask them not to ban it or whatever. So I think a lot of people are realizing that it's not kava where it's some fun health supplement or whatever, that this is just like masked hard drugs.
In the process of quitting, was there anything that you found surprising or that you weren't expecting?
Mainly just how intense the mental sides would be. It's easy it's easy to keep your chin up and say this is just the effects of withdrawal when something lasts for a week. You're like, okay, I'm beside myself right now. Soon enough I'll feel back to normal and that's just like something that happened. But when something lasts for like an entire month, it's really easy for your entire mind frame to shift and you forget what it was like to be normal before all that. So yeah, just like how intense the mental effects of the withdrawal were surprised me.
Yeah, I agree. I think the prolonged effects after quitting were surprising to me too. So, were there any other tools or routines that you did to help you maintain and stay away off the kratom?
Yeah, so I think I apply a lot of what I use for like sobriety for other things to Kratom. For one, the podcast helps a lot. Like finding the podcasts, I genuinely mean that. Like when I feel a craving, my mind is on like how good it would feel to get home and wait 20 minutes, feel that rush come on and feel total relief from my nervous system freaking out, like instant relief from anxiety, not having to wait, not having to practice mindfulness or any of that crap, like just instant. And then I listen to the podcast and it's people talking about, oh yeah, I got really sick. I had financial issues. I had all these problems in my life. And I'm like, okay, I experienced a lot of that stuff too. It's a great reminder. So podcast helps a lot if you're feeling a craving, throw on the podcast. Otherwise, if you're able to stop a craving, that's obviously the easiest way to deal with it. And the way I think of it is like a craving coming in is a ping pong ball and you've got a paddle. And before it gets to you and hits you, you just got to swat it down and allow yourself to completely forget about it, move on, go on to the next thought because addiction really works through bargaining. So as soon as it gets its foot in the door, it's, oh, we're just going to think about it. That's how it starts. And then if you live in a state where it's legal, we're just gonna go to the gas station, but for something else. We'll see if it's there, but I'm just curious. And there's this like bargaining process that goes on. And the most important thing, if you want to stay sober from anything, whether it's a habit, a substance, you name it, is to not let that bargaining process happen at all. Because that's why staying sober is hard, is because you constantly have to be vigilant of if that process is starting. Sometimes it starts without you even being fully conscious of it and making small compromises. But if you're able to recognize that thought and stop it before it grows into something more significant, like you'll stay sober. It really is. It's hard, but it's that simple. You just can't allow it to start in the first place.
Have you had any close calls or in the last year?
I did, yeah. Not proud of it at all. I was in Europe and there's parts of Europe where kratom is legal. This is my first time in Europe, so I didn't really know how it would be. Found out it's legal there, but nobody knows what it is, so it's irrelevant. You have to like order it online or something. But when I got there, I had my anxiety. I had really bad travel anxiety despite enjoying traveling, but I was like, my body was just like stone. Like my muscles could not relax. I was just, it felt like I was being hunted for sport. It was just like I couldn't turn it off. So I finally got so sick of it. I was like, all right, I'm on vacation. I want to enjoy this. I'm not naive. Like I'm aware this is probably going to turn into a problem and I'm going to keep doing it when I get home. But like anything just to stop this feeling right now. So I walked into a CBD shop there and I just asked the girl who was working there, I was like, do you guys sell Kratom? And thankfully she had no idea what I was talking about. Moved on and haven't thought about it since then.
Yeah, that was a lucky break, close call.
Yeah.
How has your drinking been the last year?
It's minimal. It helps when you hate alcohol like I do. So I really only drink like out of obligation, it seems, like for business events and stuff. When you're out with the boss's boss, it's nice to have a drink or two. So things aren't so tense, but it's nice to have the peace of mind too. I can go out with my girlfriend and just have a drink or two with dinner and not really have to worry about it because if I take it any further than that, I'm just going to be miserable. Again, I'm not like suggesting that to anyone. Most people, if you're in recovery, even if you hate alcohol, 99 times out of 100, probably more often, it's like a gateway to using again. I've seen it over and over again. with the people I was in treatment with.
Yeah, that's been my experience, but I know it's not universal. So everybody's got to mind their own business, and there are a lot of common experiences, but the experiences aren't all universal for everybody. I believe somebody when they say they don't really like alcohol. There are people like that. On the other hand, I know some people when they quit kratom, their urges to drink increase. Everybody's different. What are some of the upsides that you're experiencing being kratom free?
I guess really just being able to not feel like my life is completely out of control again. Like last winter, toward the tail end of my use, I was just like, oh my God, I can't get it together. I just felt like I was in this black hole, or the Alice in Chains song, Down in a Hole. Like it felt like that. Just like no hope, completely consumed by something that I thought I had beaten. So having that weight off my shoulders and being like, okay, yeah, I can be sober. I can manage my life, so to speak, again, is a huge relief. And not having to worry about getting sick when I'm traveling, or having to plan constantly around like kratom use and when I'm going to get more. And can people tell I'm high? Can people tell I'm sick? Just not having to worry about all that BS anymore is just such a relief. And again, like life doesn't suddenly become amazing, but just having the opportunity to make it amazing again, and not having like a sole source of pleasure that's also destroying me, is a big relief.
And do you think you reset your brain and you're able to experience dopamine and other happy chemicals just doing your normal day-to-day life things?
100%. I think Andrew Huberman puts it really well when he says that addiction is a progressive narrowing of the things that bring you pleasure. And it almost happens without an awareness. It takes time, but eventually it's, yeah, all I did enjoy was inside, literally doing nothing, like not even doing passive things like playing video games, like doing nothing and taking kratom and just sitting there and riding out the high was the only thing I enjoyed. So taking that away at first, you forget that you used to enjoy other things, and maybe they were less intense, but there's a greater variety certainly than this one thing. So the threat of that thing going away, of kratom going away, it's I'm not going to feel pleasure anymore. Like when you're in active addiction, you stop using kratom, it's all pleasure is gone. But when you ride out that initial phase, the compulsion phase and the sickness phase of reaching for it when you don't feel well, things do start to come back little by little. And if you give it long enough, you'll find that you do find pleasure in many things again. And there's a lot more opportunity for happiness, and you don't have to rely on a drug to feel happy. So it's worth it. And when you're going through it, feels misery is on the other side because you don't have that substance to guide your emotions. But the thing that's on the other side of cravings is absolutely nothing. The cravings go away. Something horrible doesn't happen. Like you feel better. So you just got to ride it out.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And yeah, it's weird. Kratom, like it will interrupt your impulse to binge watch a TV show because it numbs you out so much. For many people, they can't even follow the storyline. I swear, I think I lost 30 or 40 IQ points.
Seriously. Yeah.
You brought in some travel questions and you touched on some of your music taste. So I guess I'll just out of left field. Do you have any pets?
I don't. My lease won't allow it. My last pets were my girlfriend and I got two cockroaches. So there's that. But we don't have them anymore. So.
Was that a joke or is it raising cockroaches? Is that a thing?
I don't think it's a thing. I don't think it's even a good idea because what if they have eggs? But we saw them and they looked lonely and they were going to be fed to a lizard. So we bought them and fed them lettuce and they really liked it.
For somebody listening right now or afraid to quit, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I do. So I guess don't let it get worse. If you drop your phone, throw it on the ground after that because you dropped it and now it's broken. Screw it all. The way I think of addiction is I think of it as like a wrestling analogy, but I think a more useful. Most people would be like, you're being eaten by a snake. So that snake you're a big human. It's going to take him a while. Going to eat you an inch at a time. And each time he gains an inch, you're going to have to put forth massive effort to get that inch back. But if you're able to stop the snake, that's an inch less of effort you'll have to get or put forth in order to completely escape the snake. So what I mean by that basically is if you're at the phase where you're just using powder still, or you're just starting to dabble with this stuff, or even if you've been using it for a long time and it's worse, things can always get lower. And it's a matter of hitting the brakes at where you're at now and saying, okay, if you're not going to quit today, I'm at least not going to increase my dose. I've been thinking about the concentrates and saying, I'm not going to do that. And that's just a good starting point for quitting. Maybe you don't quit today, but just stop it where it's at. And then maybe you can start thinking about recovery from there. But there's no good justification to use more. There's no good justification to step up your use in any way. So just stop it where it's at. Take your recovery from there.
Was there any questions that I didn't ask that maybe I should have some parting words?
Nothing that I can think of, but I hope at least one person hears this and can relate to my story and finds some kind of help from it. But that's about all I have.
We appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story. You're one of our younger guests that we've had in a while, and it's good to hear from people from all walks of life. And thanks for the great advice.
Thank you.
Take care.